day by day, and let's pray for everyone's good health and safety in these uncertain times. And three of our speakers are also COVID affected. And earlier, the first lecture, which was to be given by Shivranjani Subramaniam from EMC Pune, is rescheduled on 14th of January. Means it will be on uh, tomorrow. So, Mr. Jay Mehta, he is a senior environmental engineer in EMC. He is kind enough to accept this invitation at a very short notice. I am very much thankful, Engineer Jay Mehta, and he will be taking the lecture on waste management. So, I welcome Jay Mehta, and sir, please give your brief introduction, and please take the charge of this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to go out and share our experience of the industry that we have been working on for the past 4 or 5 years now. So myself, Jay Mehta, I have been working as a consultant now for the past 3.5 years. 3 years out of them being with Environmental Management Center, which is based out of Mumbai. My primary focus areas are consultancy services related to circular economy, waste management, climate change, and life cycle assessment of products and organizations. So that is my core competence. I'm an environmental engineer by training. I have a master's degree, MTech in environmental management as well. So today, as a kind of to give the flavor of waste management, solid waste management to the audience, I will be touching upon the entire journey of what happens to a solid waste quantum, right from the place where it is generated all the way to where it is disposed. I'll be only covering, since waste management is a vast subject, and there is only so much you can fit in 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So what I have done is I have just traced the entire waste value chain and identified the most sustainable practices across India. So in between my presentations, you will see case studies of cities, which have implemented certain models successfully. And since your college is based out of Madhya Pradesh, I think I have included more examples from the cities like Bhopal and Indore, where you can actually visit nearby facilities and actually see for yourself that how waste management has improved over a period of time. So without further ado, if we are good to go, I'll just share my screen. Ma'am, it would be great if you can just give me a feedback on if you can see my slides.
Screen is not yet visible.
Can you see my slides now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it in full screen mode?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So as already mentioned, today's session would be on waste management, specifically focusing on solid waste management, which is an important part of the environment, because a lot of solid waste can create a lot of stress on your groundwater, as well as on the quality of your topsoil, as well as occupy vast spaces of land, as we have seen in mega cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, where landfills occupy a major chunk of your land. So it is a serious problem, and solid waste management is a very integral part of your sustainability efforts. So I'll just give you an outline of the session today and what all we are going to cover. I'll introduce solid waste management and the regulations in India that govern solid waste management. I'll touch upon segregation and primary collection practices, how storage and transportation of waste is being carried out, what do material recovery facility and recycling centers do, information and the role of information and communication technology in waste management, which is picking up, and I think Internet of Things and RFID sensors, etc., have now creeped into the waste management value chain. In fact, artificial intelligence and machine learning is also now employed by recyclers for better sorting of waste. So that will be covering waste to energy. That is, if you are not able to do anything with the waste or recycle it, how do you eventually combust it and convert it into energy? Biomining of wastes, that will cover upon, which is the most sustainable landfilling practice. And at the end, we would have some case studies throughout the presentation to show you how this solid waste management practices have been implemented across different cities in India. So when you talk about solid waste management in cities, you basically start by asking yourself certain questions, right? Like, what is the quantum of solid waste being generated in your area? What are the characteristics of your solid waste? What is currently being done about it, and how effective are these actions, right? If you see around you, and if you find that in your city there is a lot of litter, or the dustbins are overflowing and nobody is collecting the waste on time, or you live in an area where you can literally see the landfill that exists in the outskirts of your city, then you are able to gauge that how solid waste management practices are being carried out in your locality. So this is not only a training program but more of a self-awareness exercise on how much do we know about solid waste management in our surroundings, what are the impacts on the receiving environment and ecology, and what are the driving forces for an effective solid waste management in your city and town, right? Because every city has its own consumption patterns, every city has its own culture, and in a country like India with a lot of diversity, a lot of cultural variations, you can't expect one solution to fit in all the cities, in all the states. You have to customize solutions as per the nature of waste, as per the quantity of waste, and I think we'll see how that has been done across India. So, what are the typical waste generation areas and waste streams in India? We start with the very basic waste generating community, that is the households. We have wet or kitchen waste, what we commonly also call as garbage. Dry waste like paper, plastics, and small metal parts. Domestic hazardous waste, which includes harmful chemicals, deodorants, CFL lamps, glass, which have the potential to cause physical injury or it can cause diseases if you are exposed to those wastes. Construction and demolition waste, that includes any kind of concrete work, any kind of brick or steel work, or any kind of furniture work. Last is, of course, the sanitary waste, the waste which we generate in our bathing and other operations that are classified as sanitary operations. Then institutional and commercial establishments, they can be office buildings, malls, shops, hospitals, hotels and restaurants, markets, and they also generate wet wastes. Almost all of them generate wet waste because wherever there are people, there would be consumption of a lot of organic matter. Dry waste is also generated in the form of paper, plastics, discarded newspapers, discarded stationery, etc. In hospitals, when I specifically talk about hospitals, there is a certain category of waste that is called as biomedical waste. Biomedical waste is hazardous because it might be contaminated with patients' microbes, blood, and other harmful pathogens, which if exposed to other human beings have the potential to cause widespread epidemics. So that will cover separately as to how do we deal with waste that is coming out of hospitals. Gardens and parks, which have horticulture waste, you will see discarded dried leaves, flowers, shaved off branches where there is a lot of maintenance work going on. So you will see someone coming and maintaining the garden regularly. Sludge from drainage, that gets accumulated over a period of time. Street sweeping is typically a municipal service related waste. So these are all the waste, all the type of waste that a typical urban setup in India would be expected to generate, right? Some special wastes of significance include, hazardous waste, biomedical waste, which require special handling and disposal because of the quantity and concentration of, certain harmful ingredients. Because of their physical and chemical characteristics, certain waste can be highly inflammable, can be highly toxic, and also certain biological properties. Like we saw in the last slide, the sludge from drains, it has a lot of microbes inside it. It has a foul odor, so it is necessary to classify it as a hazardous waste and properly treat it before disposing it. Right? Such wastes are called construction and demolition waste. There is a new set of guidelines that has come up in 2016 for special disposal of construction and demolition waste. Plastic waste, slaughtering house waste, which is like full of organic matter and animal organs and organ systems, and biomedical waste, as we already discussed in the previous slide. So these are special category waste that again a city generates, but then there are separate set of guidelines for handling all these kind of wastes. What are the trends in major cities? What is the tons per day generation of waste in major cities in India? As you can see, Mumbai is generating around 11,000 tons per day of waste, which is a huge quantum of waste. Cities like Chennai are around 5,000 tons per day. Delhi is around 9,000 tons per day. If I talk about city specific to MP, as you can see, Indore is generating around 1,000, 1,500 tons per day waste, which is again a huge quantum of waste. Bhopal also clogs around 800 tons per day of waste every day. So these are the solid waste generation trends in major cities. And as you can see, as the economic prosperity of the city increases, the waste generation also increases. This is a sad reality of our times, that economic prosperity goes hand in hand with environmental pollution and waste generation, and it calls for a tremendous change in consumption patterns and how we look at our waste, because sometimes waste is a matter of perception. What is a waste for one person might be a valuable raw material or a resource for other person. And I think once we get that perspective, that narrative in our society, we would be able to manage our waste better. Per capita generation rates, these are different estimates from different agencies in India. NEERI is National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, headquartered in Nagpur. So they say that if the population of the town is around 1 to 5 lakhs, then per capita 210 grams per day waste is generated. CPCB estimates, the latest ones in 2015, say a typical Indian household would generate around 110 grams per capita per day of waste. So these are just data, and they are limited by the number of cities in which the samples have been taken. Some samples are biased towards very rich households, so we'll see that the waste quantities are overestimated. Sometimes the studies are biased towards low income households, so you'll see that the values are lesser than average. But these are the different studies that have been conducted over a period of time in India, where the per capita waste generation rates have been estimated. What is the typical composition of solid waste in India? 51% of solid waste generated in India is biodegradable, which is good because these wastes don't tend to persist in the environment. They can be disposed of, they will naturally degrade in a setup. They can also be used as fertilizers or compost under different situations. Around 40 to 50% of recyclable waste is managed by the informal sector, which is again a good thing and a bad thing. Informal sector employs a lot of labor force, and India is a country which is very rich in labor force. So it is a good news that there is so much of waste out there which the Indian labor force can handle and make a living out of it. But then, because they are informal sectors, they do not have the benefits that a normal worker would have, and a lot of interventions are required to formalize the informal sector, which is something which I have covered later in the presentation as well. Small cities have a high fraction of biodegradable waste because most of the big FMCG companies and most of the consumer products have not yet penetrated in the smaller cities. So we'll see a lot of less packaging waste, a lot of reduced waste of shampoo bottles or high-end cosmetic products, because they have not yet penetrated the small city market. But this is 2014 data. If there is a recent survey or data that has been done, you would see that even the smaller cities would have higher proportion of plastic waste, because now almost in every city in India you would find a high proportion of consumer products, right? Characterization of solid waste, very important. If you have to manage your waste, you must know what is the nature of your waste. So you should determine the physical characteristics. What is the moisture content? What is the density of the waste? What is the hardness, and other physical attributes of your waste. There are chemical attributes like what is the NPK content. If you were to use the waste as a fertilizer later on, what is the carbon to nitrogen ratio? What is the calorific value? If you were to burn that waste and convert it into electricity, then you should also know the calorific value of your waste. So again, characterization of solid waste, very important in the context of being able to utilize it as a resource, because unless you don't know what is the content of your waste, you won't be able to effectively utilize it. What are the waste management pathways in a typical city, right? So from the point of generation, be it a residential setup or a commercial setup or a municipal setup, there is primary collection that we also call as door-to-door collection, or curbside collection, that you are supposed to dump your waste nearby or outside your house near the curb, and from the curb, either the ULB vehicles or your municipal corporation vehicles, informal waste pickers, or private waste management agencies. If the municipal corporation had outsourced the work to some private agency, then they will come and collect it from your curb or from your doorstep. Then there will be a secondary waste storage. There are small transfer stations across cities where the waste is stored before exposed to further processing and disposal. From the transfer station, the waste is transported again by the local body or by private agencies to processing centers. So processing centers essentially sort the waste into biodegradable, recyclable, non-recyclable, non-biodegradable. And once they categorize the waste are respectively sent off to their own material recovery facilities. Garbage would be sent off to a composting facility or a biomethanation facility where it would be converted to biogas or it would be converted into other forms of fertilizer. Your recyclable waste such as plastic, glass and metals would be given off to respective recycling agencies who are doing recycling of those materials, and whatever is left which cannot be of any use is sent away for disposal. That is called as a landfill. Right? So this is the waste management pathway that a typical city follows from the point of generation all the way to the point of disposal. As per the solid waste management rules, these are the waste management pathways. I'll just shift this so that the visibility is better. So household, institutional and commercial establishments, markets, gardens and parks and municipal services. The wastes are essentially classified into biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Biodegradable waste can be either composted or they can be converted into biomethane, and your non-biodegradable waste can be recycled. If the calorific value is low, then they should be sent to the landfill because there is no other choice. If they have high calorific value, then you can incinerate the waste, then you can burn it and you can convert it into electricity. In certain cases, it is also used for co-processing. For example, certain waste plastics are sent away for cement manufacturing plants where along with coal, they also burn the plastic and it is used as a fuel for production of industrial goods. Right? One example, again, I have taken it from Indore so that some of you might be able to go and visit and see for yourself as to how Indore has improved. I think for consecutively for 4-5 years now, Indore is among the top clean cities in India. The reason being a multifarious range of initiatives that the municipal corporation has adopted in terms of source segregation, improvement in road sweeping, collection vehicle optimization. You know, sometimes the vehicle just go around the cities collecting waste without optimizing the route, so they end up burning a lot of fuel and collecting a lot less waste. So if there is a smart collection route planning, then a lot of fuel is saved, a lot of collection effort is also saved. Bin free city, 100% D2D waste collection, that is door to door waste collection, management of transportation and secondary transportation, bioremediation, which we'll see towards the end of this presentation how Devgurudia, that is the landfill site of Indore, how they have recovered it in the past 7 years, remarkable improvement, waste processing and sanitary landfills, right? And all of this has been primarily driven by information, education, communication or behavioral communication change. That is, it is not only about the efforts of the corporation, but there is a behavioral change that was initiated, which the people of Indore have brought about. Door-to-door waste collection, wards are made bin-free. Evening cleaning and waste collection from commercial areas. Waste collection from bulk generators by a separate system. Transport optimization, they are using hand carts wherever the streets are very small, wherever the waste quantum is very small. They have employed cycle rickshaws, tippers. Modern transfer stations have been established. Small composting units for smaller residential societies and smaller cluster of households can access those composting units. Establishment and operation of OWC composting system, that is something that you can deploy at your household. A lot of initiatives have come across for composting, but what people don't realize is that composting is something which is very scientific, which is it requires a lot of focus, emphasis. It requires the perfect amount of temperature and humidity, and that's why it is important that you don't only emphasize on composting, but you also provide the users with very good options to adopt for composting. Improvement in road sweeping, micro planning of manual sweeping and mechanization. So the first round of sweeping happens by laborers who come and sweep the road, and they accumulate the waste to the side of the street, and then a mechanical truck would come, use vacuums and mechanized sweepers to basically collect the entire roadside waste. Collection of construction and demolition waste and waste processing. Very important in a city which is growing as fast as Indore, any tier 2, any tier 3 city, you would see a lot of construction activity going on. It is very important to manage the waste that comes out of construction. Now there are guidelines at the national level for handling of construction and demolition waste, and Indore has successfully implemented those guidelines. information communication technology interventions, which we'll see in the subsequent sections as how they have been deployed for various causes. Another city which I have taken for my example is Ambikapur, where they have done source segregation, 100% door-to-door waste collection, MRF, target zero waste, decentralized treatment, remediation of dump site into sanitary park, and women employment SHGs. What my experience has been working with different municipal corporations and different agencies in the waste management sector is that actually the tier 3 and tier 2 cities, which are not yet fully developed, which are still growing, are actually the leaders in waste management in India. And the mega cities like Mumbai or Delhi or Ahmedabad should learn from the experiences of these smaller cities on how, if you have the intent to improve on your waste management practice, you can do wonders. And I think Indore and Ambikapur have been leaders in these regards, and even the big rich municipal corporations of mega cities of India should learn as to how to manage their solid waste. Again, Ambikapur, segregating the waste at source. See, if you segregate the waste at source, that's half the problem solved, because right from the start you have two separate streams, which requires very less sorting, which requires very less labor, which consumes very less energy, because already you are able to separate the biodegradable and the non-biodegradable waste separately, right? Composting, family type biogas plants, and community aerobic composting units. So they have essentially decentralized their waste management. Instead of all the waste being collected in huge quantities, transported to a central facility where it is composted, you say, whatever is the waste generated in your area, keep it in your area. We'll provide you with composting bins, we'll provide you with biogas plants. You dump your waste there only. And whatever compost or biogas comes out of that, that should be used by the community itself. So it reduces a lot of transportation effort, it reduces the requirement of storage of waste, and in the process it also improves the community awareness about waste management. Hotels, vegetable markets, wedding halls are mandated to have their own plants or make arrangements to entrust their waste to recognized private service providers. So basically the onus is on the waste generator. They are either supposed to make arrangements for their own waste, or they are supposed to hire private service providers, but they cannot leave their waste unattended. Government subsidies are made available for good waste management practices. Plastic collection drives on pre-notified and specified dates at specified points are conducted. Watson clubs in schools and colleges also collect recyclable waste. This not only helps in the waste collection efforts, but your school and college students, who are the future of tomorrow, are getting aware about waste management practices. And when they will come in the productive age, when they'll start working and earning money and contributing to the economy, they would be in a better position to assist in the waste management process, because they have learned this right from their school and college days. There are fines and disciplinary actions also for defaulters in the city. So this is the broad regulatory framework in solid waste management that exists in India. The Constitution of India has two provisions. First is the legislative or the regulatory bodies, and second is the judiciary. So under regulatory bodies, the primary onus of creating laws regarding solid waste management is with MOEF and CC, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The agency which does this task for MOEF and CC is CPCB, or Central Pollution Control Board. CPCB would be giving guidelines to respective state pollution control boards to implement the solid waste management rules within their cities. Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, through their Smart Cities program, is also now involved in the waste management effort, because I think even if you want to be a smart city, then there are certain waste management protocols and guidelines that you have to follow. And unless you are able to manage your waste effectively, you won't be given the smart city status. So now MOHUA is also involved in the waste management effort. At the state level, SUDA, which is the State Urban Development Authority, would be working in coordination with the urban local body or your municipal corporation, and they would be charging the generators, the waste generation, in the form of different type of taxes to efficiently being able to manage their waste and dispose them in an environmentally sound manner. So this is the regulatory part of it. Now, if any default happens in the regulatory side of solid waste management, then there is judiciary to overlook it. In the newspapers right now, you would be reading a lot about the National Green Tribunal, because it is giving out a lot of notices and orders to different government bodies who are not able to implement the guidelines properly. They would say this particular municipal corporation is supposed to pay fine because they are not managing their waste. This particular industry is supposed to pay fine because they are not treating their wastewater properly. So that's where NGT comes into picture. They take cognizance of such defaults and they pass on orders which are enforceable to all the regulatory bodies. NGT can even pass orders to Ministry of Environment and Forest directly, which they are bound to implement once it is in NGT's notice. What you can do as a citizen is you can file an RTI to seek further information, or you can file a public interest litigation in the NGT to highlight any environmental issue in your locality. So for solid waste management, this is the broad regulatory framework that exists in India. This is only the government or the governance side of it, but we as waste generators and as citizens of India also have a very integral part to play in the solid waste management. Now we'll see waste segregation and primary collection, right? Again, it is important to understand what are the different types of composition of your waste before you collect it. Waste can be biodegradable, non-biodegradable, sanitary, combustible, which has a high calorific value and which can be burnt to extract energy, residual solid waste, which is of no use, which can't be recycled, which can't be burnt, dry waste like plastics, papers, and then there are inerts. Inerts are basically materials that just lie around in the environment. They do not decompose on their own. They do not have sufficient calorific value that you can, burn them and generate energy out of them. So they have to be disposed of in the landfills. As per the solid waste management rules of 2016, this is how household segregation should happen. And I want all of you to pay attention and request you to kindly implement this at your household level at least, so that we as responsible citizens are able to at least start segregation from our homes. Wet waste, that includes food waste, eggshells, flowers, fruits, solid or liquid, household garden waste, soil tissues, and paper towels should be collected in a green bin and classified as wet waste. Then there is a dry waste bin, that is a blue bin, that should include paper, cardboard, cartons, packaging of all kinds, compound packaging like Tetra packs, rags, rubber, wood, discarded clothing or textiles, furniture, metals, glass, inerts, and house sweepings, right? And then there is a separate category of waste, that is domestic hazardous. Now, all of us are generally aware about the wet waste and dry waste because it's a very common word and a lot of people use it, but nobody is aware that there are domestic hazardous wastes also, like printer cartridges, electronic parts which have mercury, arsenic, cadmium, all of those heavy metals which have cancer causing potential, batteries which have explosive potential, which have again harmful heavy metals, bleaches and household kitchen and drain cleaning agents, which are again very toxic, because you can imagine if they can kill 99.9% germs, then if you like inhale it or if you like consume it, what harm it can do to your body. So that is a hazardous waste. Light bulbs, especially CFL lamps, which have a lot of mercury inside it, it is an environmental hazard. Paints, oils, and lubricants have something called as volatile organic compounds or VOCs. So those VOCs, if you are exposed to VOCs for an extended period of time, they can even cause cancer or breathing problems over a period of time. So these are to be separated from your wet waste and from your dry waste. Every urban local body prescribes its own color for this. Usually it is black, but urban local bodies can say that if you want to dispose of hazardous waste, then this is the color of the bin that you should be employing. So that depends on corporation to corporation, right? But it is very important to be aware about domestic hazardous waste, not only because of solid waste management problem, but also because you yourself risk exposed to all those domestic hazardous waste, and once you are exposed to them, it might lead to long-term chronic diseases and symptoms. Types of waste collection that need to happen in a city: primary collection from the source of generation, it can be a household or it can be a commercial establishment. It should ensure separate collection of waste streams or fractions. It would be interesting to know if in your particular city whether there is a separate collection or not, because what I have seen from wherever I have lived is that even if you separately store your waste in your household, ultimately when the corporation guy or when the waste collector comes, they dump all the waste into just one basket. So there is no point of doing that exercise if at the end they are going to mix the waste streams, right? I hope you have had a better experience of disposing of your waste. Where to take the collected waste, be it in the storage depot, transfer station, or disposal site. So storage depot is usually when the waste is stored before ultimately being sent to the landfill. Transfer station is where the waste is sorted and sent off to different streams, like the metals would be sent to recyclers, the plastics also would be sent to recyclers, and other wastes would be sent to the landfills. And ultimately the disposal site, that is from the transfer station you have to transport the leftover waste to the landfill or the disposal site. Secondary collection includes picking up waste from community bins, which are bins which exist at a society level or at the waste storage depots or at the transfer station. So these are the essential types of collection efforts that a corporation has to make. Usually the primary collection happens by smaller vehicles because of two reasons. First, waste quantity is very less. Second, uh, your streets in a typical Indian city, especially the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the streets are very narrow. It is not possible for larger trucks to enter the streets just for collecting some small quantum of waste. So usually primary collection is done by hand carts or trolleys or very small mechanized vehicles. And when it comes to secondary collection, that is picking up from community bins or transfer stations, then big trucks are employed which are able to collect huge quantity of waste at one time, right? I've taken one example here from Surat, which is information communication technology enabled real-time monitoring of door-to-door collection vehicles. It is very important to track the movement of your waste. So Surat Municipal Corporation has its own portal, a dashboard where it can track the movement of every truck, which all trucks are operational, which truck is going from which route to which route, what is the quantity of waste that is being carried by that truck. And then you can even see the live location of the truck in the map. So this is a real-time monitoring of waste management so that the corporation is able to track that where the trucks are going and how much quantity of waste they are carrying, right? What were the challenges? There was a difficulty in ensuring that the vehicle attends the routes, because sometimes it depends on the driver and the collector whether they are going to a certain route. Sometimes they employ shortcuts, they don't cover the entire geography. Difficulty in performance measurement of the vehicle or the contractor. Whenever you have given out the contracts to someone else, it is very difficult to monitor whether they are implementing it properly or not, right? And non-availability of on-demand reports of vehicles, because sometimes they say that we have covered this particular route, but then you receive a complaint from the residents that no one has come to collect our waste for the past 1 week. So now that these are all GPS enabled and there is a real-time tracking, you are able to move to track the movement of the trucks, and there can be no miscommunication that happens across the entire collection route, right? What were the key outcomes of this intervention? Minimal human intervention, because everything is GPS and tech enabled. Accurate and real-time monitoring. Real-time grievance redressal, because if some citizen calls you and says, waste has not been collected for the past 3 days, you can immediately see that which truck is currently moving nearest to that particular locality, and you can call up the driver and you can instruct them to go and collect the waste from that particular point. So it is real-time grievance redressal. Accountable and transparent waste collection system. Nobody can lie or cheat, not even the private contractors. Prevention of misuse of manual intervention in the system. Ensures complete coverage of waste collection, because now that the truck driver knows that their movement is being tracked, they have to cover everything that comes under their locality. And there is also a real-time data analysis and decision making, which is you are able to on real time estimate the quantity of waste that is being collected, the quantity of waste that is being recycled, and the quantity of waste that goes to the landfills. Establishing market linkages and integrating informal sector. Now that we have covered the collection effort, we have seen how waste management happens in cities. It is very important to understand informal sectors or your waste pickers, which are a very important part of the waste economy, but nobody does anything for their welfare or to ensure that they have a certain sense of job security. So we'll look into how informal sectors workers are involved in the waste value chain of India. As you can see, this is the formal waste value chain where municipal corporation collects the waste, it processes it, and it sends it to the landfill, right? But then there is an informal economy, which is being shown by the black dots, which is equally important, which collects plastic, paper, and other waste that are lying around as litter. Sometimes they come door to door to collect those waste, and they send it to aggregators or kabadiwalas, right? Now, kabadiwalas are not someone who are registered recyclers. They just collect the waste and they either give it off to some recycler, or they have some in-house process to recycle that waste, which might be hazardous to the workers who are employed, because sometimes they ask the workers to burn plastic, which leads to a lot of environmental hazard as well as health and safety hazard, right? So it is very important to understand how the informal waste pickers are an integral part of your waste value chain, how a lot of waste from the generation point as well as from the landfill is collected by these informal waste pickers and sent to aggregators. Aggregators sometimes are exploitative. Even though the informal waste pickers collect a lot of waste, they are not adequately compensated for their collection effort, right? So it is very important to care for the informal waste system. So, Ambikapur's zero waste model also ensures, as we have already seen in the previous case study, they have this such small rickshaws where they employ women, and most of these women are someone who were already working as informal waste pickers prior to being employed. So this is one example where Ambikapur has formalized the informal sector by employing all those informal rag pickers and giving them the means to effectively collect the solid waste. It is a certified dustbin-free city. 80 lakhs worth of treated waste sold. That is, they are not only able to manage their waste, but they are generating revenue out of it. Imagine being a municipal corporation and being able to generate 80 lakhs worth of treated waste. Former dump site, which was the landfill, has been remediated because these workers also go to the dump site and extract all the useful raw materials. The cost of land, which was reclaimed, earlier it was a wasteland, it was a landfill. Now were able to convert that land again into useful land, and the cost of that land itself is 25 crore rupees. So you can imagine, if you determine or if you take the initiative, then how well you can manage your solid waste. This is the typical hierarchy of waste. Waste pickers sell their waste to the small kabari walas, then all that waste goes to the big kabari walas, and then they sell it on some agreed rate to the recyclers. Unhygienic working conditions, because kabaris are not, again, organized sector. They do not have to follow any of the government of India's laws. They do not come under the Factories Act. So it is very unhygienic. Uneducated, because the waste pickers know that they have to collect plastic, but they don't know that we're collecting which type of plastic has more value. What is the market rate of the plastic? How much can they ask for when they go to the kabadi wala? So they have to settle for whatever they are paid. As I said, no bargaining power. They have no means of transportation, so most of their collection is a manual effort. You would see these rag pickers taking a very huge sack and loading it on their back and traveling for kilometers just to deposit certain small quantities of plastic. One bag full of plastic bottles would hardly give them 70-80 rupees. They collect that for like 4-5 hours a day. They walk around 10-12 kilometers within the city, and after that level of effort, they hardly get 80 to 100 rupees, right? So there is a lot of exploitation that happens. How can we integrate this? Institutional considerations. We can do their capacity building, health and safety training. We can make sure that their financial literacy is there. They know what kind of money to ask for. We organize them into unions, and we also organize them into cooperatives. Like the milk producers of Gujarat, way back in the 70s, Dr. Varghese Kurian organized them into Amul, and now everyone knows the success story of Amul. I think same can be done with the informal sector workers, organized into cooperatives, right? UNDP, that is United Nations Development Program, and Hindustan Coca-Cola Prithvi Project does the same. They conduct training programs for these workers. They have a lot of recycling centers across India, where they fund small startups who want to get into the recycling business. All of them have a lot of strong social value. That is, they employ a lot of informal sector workers. They fairly compensate them. They make sure that Safai Sathis, as they are called by the UNDP Prithvi project, Safai Sathis are provided first aid kit and PPE gears for their collection effort. So this is something which we need to look into. I request the audience to search UNDP Prithvi project, and it is very interesting to get some insights on this. They are located in so many centers, 23 cities across India with 20 different implementation partners, and their plastic waste management program has gained a lot of traction. I have visited the Mumbai and the Chennai plants, and I plan to visit the Ahmedabad plant very soon. It's a very well maintained facility, and you can actually see how fairly the informal sector workers are compensated. Second is the access to waste, right? Sometimes the private agencies as well as the local municipal corporation do not allow the informal sector to function on their own. So another unique example that has come out of this is Swachh, which is an initiative in Pune. I don't know how many of you have heard about Swachh, but it is a very famous initiative. It is a very big success story. Swachh is nothing but a worker cooperative which has 2,300 members, which cater to 40 lakh households, or 4 lakh households in the city of Pune. They have an MOU with the Pune Municipal Corporation since 2008, right? They have, on a daily basis, they collect around 1100 tons of waste, and they save around 200 tons of waste from going into the landfill. So they have reduced the landfill quantity by almost 18%. How that works is, there are two member services, and each group of two members will serve around 300 to 400 households for door-to-door collection. Segregated waste is expected, but not always. So wherever they do not get segregated waste, they would further segregate it. The right to recycle the segregated waste is with the informal sector workers. So they don't have to go to any kabadi wala, they don't have to go to anyone. They themselves have the right to sell the recyclables and make their own money out of it, right? And the non-recyclable waste is delivered to the feeder points, from where they can be either sent to a material recovery facility or a landfill, right? What are the benefits to the waste pickers? They are recognized by the government and the citizens. Dignity of labor. There is a user fee that they can charge, so there is a fixed income component to it. They do not have to live with uncertainty. There is a proper care taken for their health and safety. They are provided with all the personal protective equipment, right? And there is a social protection component. Swatch also provides them with medical insurance, life insurance, and education initiatives. What are the benefits to the municipal corporation? It becomes easier for them to manage the waste because someone else is doing the door-to-door collection. So they are not only able to save INR 5 crore waste handling fees, 1 crore tipping fees, and 33.5 crore labor costs, because now they don't have to pay the laborers. The laborers essentially collect their own waste, they sell it off on their own, and they make their own money. So there is a lot of autonomy to the labor. At the same time, it reduces a lot of effort and cost to the municipal corporation. This is a very successful model, and I urge everyone to please go and read about the Swatch model that has been employed. Third strategy is called the extended producer responsibility. It is a clause that came into the waste management rules in 2016, wherein the producer, suppose Lakme is a famous cosmetic brand and they are producing, say, a kind of shampoo. So the shampoo bottle, once the product has been used and once the consumer throws it off, it is the responsibility of Lakme to get that bottle collected and recycled and integrated back into the plastics economy, right? So they hire something called as a producer responsibility organization, or PROs, who work for the collection of waste, for the recycling of waste, and then every company is given their own targets that, under EPR you are supposed to collect 30% of the plastic. So suppose if Lakme is selling 100,000 bottles a month, then if their EPR target is say 30%, then they are supposed to get 30,000 bottles collected, right, in that particular month. And slowly those EPR targets would be increased as that law becomes more and more mature. As India builds its capacity in recycling and collection of waste, those targets would become stricter and stricter. And at one point of time, the government even aspires to collect 90% of the waste. So if you are selling 100 bottles, the government would expect the company to collect 90 bottles back and adequately process them, recycle them, and integrate them back into the plastic value chain. So EPR is something which is a legislative mandate. And again, I request all of you to read about EPR. Many countries have successfully implemented EPR, and I hope that India is also able to do it in the next 5-6 years. Case studies on information communication technology. I'm someone who gets very excited by technology, and I think we must look into how technology is important, what role technology plays in the waste value chain. So waste generation as well as the household waste generation can be fed onto an online platform. The data can be analyzed, and the collection routes can be planned according to those data or statistics as to how much waste is generated. Suppose one locality is able to you know fully utilize its bin capacity in 7 days. That is, it takes 7 days for it to completely generate enough waste so that their community bin is full. So the truck actually doesn't need to go to that locality for a period of 7 years. But then there is a locality B which is filling its dustbin in a matter of only 3 days, right? So once you have the data, once you are able to collect that data using smart sensors and smart RFID tags, then you are able to smartly plan your collection route. You are able to save a lot of fuel, a lot of time, and you are able to prioritize that where waste collection is necessary and where waste collection is not so necessary at this point of time. Sensors are also employed in sorting. Now, artificial intelligence is able to distinguish between colored bottles and transparent bottles, between metals, magnetic materials, non-magnetic materials. So many recyclers are now buying a lot of artificial intelligence-based robots, and those robots are helping them in sorting of waste, so that the amount of physical labor and the amount of time that it takes to segregate waste is reduced. First example comes from Vijayawada, where they installed RFID tags at the top of each bin. Now, each bin will have its own unique properties: bin number, a location, that is its latitude and longitude, and the assigned truck details, that which truck is supposed to collect this waste. So once the truck reaches the SWM bin, the driver reads the RFID tag, right? They have a mobile based RFID reader. Then it records the shift wise lifting of SWM bins. So everything is fed onto a central server or a central dashboard, and the movement of the vehicle is tracked through the vehicle tracking devices. So, one, the collection is accounted for. Second, a specific truck that has been assigned for that dustbin only can go and collect that waste. Otherwise, that waste collection won't be counted, right? Monitoring of vehicle movement through GPS, a real-time tracking, reduce day-to-day operation costs. Again, needless to say, it saves a lot of time and manpower. And complaints related to garbage lifting is reduced. So, as a citizen, you would be more satisfied of living in a city which is cleaner, where the dustbins are not overflowing and where the waste is being collected on a periodic basis. Digital house identification is another system implemented in the city of Vapi in Gujarat, right? So Vapi being a small town, there was a difficulty in finding addresses. So how do you identify the houses from where you are supposed to collect the waste? So they put this sticker, which is also called as DHI or digital house identification. A digital code is given to every house along with a near field communication or an NFC tag. So whenever the truck is near that particular location, the NFC gets activated and it sends off the signal to that truck to come and collect the waste from that particular location. Smartphone enabled complaint management system. Any user can download the app and register a complaint. It is a very hassle free exercise. You don't have to call up the local body, you don't have to physically fill out a form. You can just use your smartphone and register a complaint if your waste is not collected properly. 90% reduction in door to day waste collection. Imagine if you are getting 100 complaints a day. Now, after implementation of DHI, you are getting only 10 complaints a day. So, as an urban local body, it makes your job a lot easier. There is a tenfold increase in the number of citizens' grievance solved in a day. Savings of 20 lakh for the waste department every day, because their waste collection effort is now much more optimized in terms of their collection route planning, as well as where they need to go and what kind of vehicles they need to deploy. Third example comes again. I have taken the example of Bhopal because you might be able to relate to it. You might have even seen this somewhere. The challenges were littering due to overflowing waste bins, and the bins in high traffic areas become full very quickly because there is a lot of footfall. A lot of people pass across that area very frequently. So what they did was they installed RFID and fuel sensors in SWM vehicles, right? 230 Internet of Things sensor covering 460 twin bins. We call them twin bins because the blue one is for the dry waste and the green one is for the wet waste. Uh, there is a real-time vehicle tracking system and high weekly collection frequency. So once the dustbin is full, this particular sensor which you see here, right in the middle of both, would give out a signal that this particular dustbin is full and it needs to be emptied. So the collection truck would come. There would be a real-time tracking of that truck. The collection truck would come and it would empty the bin. So earlier, when the high traffic areas and their dustbins were becoming too full quickly, now their collection was optimized, right? So it automates your garbage collection. It cuts down on the number of unwarranted trips, because you take a trip only when the dustbin sends you a signal that I am full, right? Otherwise, for a half empty dustbin or for a quarter empty dustbin, you don't need to go and collect. So it cuts down on the number of trips that you have to undertake, and it helps in understand the underlying pattern of garbage collection. Now that you are collecting so much of data, that one estimate says that at 4 p.m. every evening the dustbin is full. That means you have to plan your route in such a way that you are able to empty that dustbin somewhere between 3 to 5 p.m. every day, because that's when that dustbin is likely to get full. So such very insightful data can also be collected using IoT. New Delhi has implemented this Swachh ATM. This is also called as a reverse vending machine. So PET bottles, which are now very, very well known to be converted into wearables or clothes or fibers, they are collected in this Swachh ATM. Right? The number of PET bottles consumed in India every day is huge, and I think the collection of all these PET bottles becomes much easier with such Swachh ATM. So what, as a user, if you deposit your bottle, as you can see that guy trying to put that bottle inside it, you will get a coupon. You will get a coupon sent to your mobile number, which would be of a local restaurant or a local McDonald's outlet, saying you get a 10% off discount because you deposited so many bottles in the reverse vending machine. So it is incentivizing the citizens to actually dispose of their waste in a proper manner, right? So this is an automated machine, as you can see. It increases the consumer awareness because it is just as visible as your normal ATM. If you want to see the impact of this, 729,000 bottles have been recovered in 1 year. That is equivalent to 32.7 metric tons of PET or polyethylene. It saves 4.34 cubic feet of landfill and 10.8 kilowatt per hour of energy saved. Right? Technology applications in SWM in the Indian context, waste to energy, thermal processes. So now we have seen the use of technology. Now we will see how what happens to the waste which cannot be recycled, which cannot be collected, which cannot be converted to compost. So it has to go somewhere, right? So there comes the role of waste to energy or thermal processes. What are the key drivers for waste to energy processes? First, climate change impacts. Thermal waste to energy plants reduce the GHG by diverting the waste from landfills and open burning. So instead of burning it in the open or instead of depositing it in the landfill, they are able to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by controlled combustion in an incinerator. Second is land constraints. Waste to energy can reduce the waste volume and mass by 75 to 90%. That is, if you are collecting 1000 tons of waste and if you are able to successfully burn all of it, the residue which will be left at the end of the combustion exercise would be hardly 1 to 2 tons. That is, it is reducing your waste volume by 75 to 90%, which is huge because space is a major problem in mega cities. Shift to thermal waste to energy process improves the hygiene and environmental condition because the waste which has a lot of contamination, which has a lot of harmful insects and pests lying on it, if you burn it off, then those unhygienic conditions would improve and the chances of disease or contamination would be reduced. Last is, of course, waste to energy plants can be used for energy generation. So you need to look into the waste characteristics. It should have a calorific value of at least 1500 calories per kg. It requires a high investment. If you want to install an incinerator or a pyrolysis plant, it requires a huge amount of investment of the order of 400 to 500 crores. So the municipal corporation should have access to loans from World Bank or any other financial institution to be able to afford such a waste to energy plant. Environmental aspects. Sometimes the burning of plastics leads to the generation of dioxins and furans. So you have to have a control over the combustion process because if the temperature goes above 1200 degrees Celsius, then you will see that dioxins and furans are released, which can lead to a widespread incidence of cancer amongst the citizens. Social impact, it might potentially divert waste away from the 3 Rs as the plant require feedstock minimums. Now, suppose you have installed a waste to energy plant and the only way to economically operate it is by feeding it at least 1000 tons of waste every day. If you don't feed it 1000 tons of waste, the plant would not be able to operate on its full capacity and you would incur a lot of losses, right? So sometimes what happens is that even though some of the waste might be recyclable, you cannot actually send it for recycling because you have to feed a certain amount of waste to the incinerator. So this is a disadvantage of this technology, that some of the waste might be even diverted from recyclers just because you want to keep the plant running. So these are the important considerations that you need to make. Desirable range of waste characteristics. Moisture less than 45%. The organic content should be at least 40% with 15% or less fixed carbon, 30 less than 35% inert material or non-combustible material, and their calorific value should be greater than 1500 kilocalories per kg. So waste only with these characteristics fit in the criteria of waste to energy conversion. The various technologies that are available for waste to energy generation are incineration, pyrolysis or gasification, refuse derived fuel, that is conversion of waste into fuel. You see small pellets which are used by industries for their boiler operations. And last is, of course, plasma arc. For plasma arc, I request the users to look into Gift City in Gujarat, that is Gujarat Infrastructure and Financial Tech City. They have a plasma arc based solid waste management system where the waste is directly converted into plasma, which is the fourth state of matter. and it generates a lot of energy in the process. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this part, that is techno-economic comparison of technologies. These are basically the comparison of the technologies that are available: incineration, plasma arc, and pyrolysis. And I have shared this presentation with the organizers, so you might get access to these PPTs as a reference material. But I think I need to switch to decentralized solid waste management case studies straight away, right? But I request the users to go through Gift City as a case study, as well as to look into the techno-economic comparison of available technologies, because I believe, being college students, technology is something that excites all of us, and it would be interesting to understand how these technologies works and what are the limitations of these technologies. Decentralized solid waste management system. Now, a major problem in a big city, especially when the city grows, say beyond 50 kilometers by 50 kilometers, then if you have to transport a certain quantum of waste all the way to the landfill, the amount of fuel consumed, the amount of effort it takes to collect the waste and dispose the waste keeps on increasing. So, what is the solution? You have to decentralize the solid waste management. Sometimes the solid waste management should happen at the ward level. Sometimes it should even happen at the society level. So that is called as a decentralized waste management. Just like we studied in our social sciences classes, that earlier India was a country which was very heavy on central government and its directives. Now we have the Panchayati Raj system. So every village is able to govern itself in its own way because of the Panchayati Raj system. So that is decentralized governance. So something of that sort has to be implemented for solid waste management as well. And I have compiled certain case studies for you to understand that how certain cities have been able to implement the decentralized solid waste management successfully. The first example is Magarpatta city in Pune. So Magarpatta is a famous IT hub which is located on the outskirts of Pune city, which has around 4 tons of waste generation per day with 100% source segregation. They have employed technologies such as vermicomposting, as you can see on the left hand side of the screen, organic waste converter or OWC, that is basically a composting plant, and a biomethanation plant. So you basically feed all the waste into the biomethanation plant and it converts it into biogas, which can be used for cooking applications, heating applications, or which can be commercially sold off as CNG or compressed natural gas. So every month they are able to extract 3 tons of vermin compost, which is a fantastic soil conditioner and fertilizer. Organic farmers are increasingly using vermicompost in their farming practices because it is very
Sir, you're not audible.
Okay, there is some technical issue. Sir is logging again.
Hello,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you hear me now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Since which part did you lose me?
Actually, presentation is on, not visible also.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
So what was the last?
Uh, yes.
We have covered this one, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So as I was talking about the ITC Green Temple, ITC has actually funded two temples in Tamil Nadu. One is the Sri Anant Padmanabha Swami Temple, and second is the Kapalishwara Temple in Chennai, where they have installed organic composters.
Excuse me, sir, please.
Yeah,
Sir, basically you are talking with the Magarmatta case study of Pune. So
yeah.
please, if you
Okay,
can cover with
okay,
that.
okay,
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
So I hope you got the gist of when I was talking about decentralized solid waste management, right? And what is its importance?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So Magarpatta is located in the outskirts of Pune. It is a major IT hub. All the major IT companies in Pune have their headquarters in Magarpattam. They have a 4 tons of waste generation every day, which they are able to source segregate 100%. Again, because the crowd, the people that lives in Magarpattam region are aware and they are able to source segregate it. So the ward has employed treatment technologies like vermicomposting, OWC or organic waste converter, as well as biomethanation plant, which is able to give out 3 tons of vermin compost a month, which is used as a soil conditioner as well as a fertilizer, which is a big thing now because farmers are looking to switch to organic farming. So there is a big market for vermicompost based fertilizers. Second, since the ward administration also maintains a lot of garden pumps and also a lot of public facilities, they need to buy electricity from the distribution company. But now that they are able to generate biogas from that waste, they are able to consume 270 units of electricity, which reduces their dependence on the distribution company and it reduces their cost of maintaining the public spaces. So this is one very important example at ward level, where without being a part of the centralized effort of waste management across the entire city, one particular ward or one particular area of the city is able to manage their waste successfully. ITC Green Temple, ITC, which is the owner of famous brands such as Fiamma Devils and Sunfeast, they have funded this Mangaldeep Green Temple initiative, where they are installing organic composters and biogas plants in temples. They started this in Chennai, Sri Anant Padmanabha Swami Temple, as well as Kapalishwara Temple in Chennai, where there is a lot of flower and garden waste that gets generated, right? All that flower and temple waste is getting converted into organic manure, which is then applied to the garden applications within the temple, as well as it allows the flower sellers which sit outside the temple to take charge of their own waste and sell it off as fertilizers to anyone who is willing to purchase it. So this is a very famous initiative of the larger initiative that ITC has. It is called WOW initiative. Well-being out of waste is the name of that initiative, and I urge the users to kindly Google the ITC WOW initiative if they can. Pammal municipality in Kanchipuram, Tamil Nadu, generates green fertilizer at local warehouse, where the kitchen waste is converted to vermicompost and biogas, and dry leaves are converted to charcoal briquettes. So charcoal is again a fuel for the local community for their cooking applications. They collect around 45 tons waste from 21 wards within the Pammal municipality. There are 7 fertilizer plants which generate around 50 cubic meters of biogas, and they have integrated solid waste management and extracted RDF. So your charcoal briquettes would be one kind of an RDF only, that is refuse derived fuel. Refuse is nothing but your waste organic matter or garbage, and if you are able to derive any fuel application out of that, then it is called an RDF. So the charcoal briquettes that they are able to generate out of the dry leaves are called as RDF. It was initiated by a self-help group in 1994, which is registered as Exnora Green Pammal, an NGO in 2006. Right. So this is a community participation, non-governmental initiative towards decentralization of waste. Namakkal, first zero garbage town in India. It produces vermicompost from organic waste through private agencies on build, operate, and transfer basis. BOT basis, I think everyone is familiar with. That's how our highways are constructed. A private company builds them, collects toll, which is also called as operation, and then transfers the ownership to the the government of India. So that build, operate, transfer philosophy has been now applied to waste management as well. They sell inorganic recyclable garbage and convert the compost yard into Nandavanam, which is they engage a lot of teams and automobile carriers to remove the waste around the clock within the city of Namakkal. They charge hotels, marriage halls, and commercial complexes, which generate a lot of garbage. So this is essentially how they finance their operations. The hotels, marriage halls, and commercial complexes are paying these agencies to collect their garbage and manage them. And they are also now into night sweeping at the bus stand and important roads and try to collect garbage from those localities as well. Night sweeping because the traffic has reduced post the office hours or post the busy hours, and that's when they are able to efficiently collect their waste. So everyone should look into Namakkal, which is India's first zero garbage town. Bio-CNG, again a case study from Pune, where 17 operational biogas plants in 9 states have like a capacity of 40 tons per day. In Bengaluru, Mahindra World City in Tamil Nadu has 8 tons per day, and Baner, which is a locality in Pune, has a capacity of 125 tons per day. I have visited this Baner facility in September 2021. So I have seen firsthand how that biogas plant is efficient, how it is able to power the street lights in Pune. So the municipal corporation is able to actually use this particular biogas or CNG that is being generated as a fuel for generating electricity, and that electricity is being used for street power. Their next plan is to convert this biogas plant into a full-fledged CNG plant, where they would be selling off the commercial CNG for use by auto rickshaws that operate within the city of Pune. Right? The energy is passed on to companies like Indian Oil. They have a contract with the Indian Oil that they would be buying a minimum quantity, say 137 tons from this particular facility. And bio CNG can be used as an automotive fuel for cooking as well as to power street lights, as I already mentioned. So this is, if someone lives in and around Pune and gets a chance to visit this plant, do visit it. How a successful large scale waste to energy plant at a decentralized effort, how does it look? If you want to see, then you must visit the Baner plant. Alappuzha and its zero waste model, they process biodegradable domestic waste as source. That means this time it is not only happening at a community level or at a ward level, it is happening at a household level. So they have composters installed. The composters are as simple as, large diameter PVC pipes, which are also called as aerobic composting bins. They are family type biogas plants and community aerobic composting units, which enable one household or a group of households living in a society to essentially manage their own waste, generate a lot of compost as well as biogas. Hotels, vegetable markets, and wedding halls are mandated to have their own plants and make arrangements to entrust their waste to recognized private service providers. Right? So this is Alappuzha's zero waste model. They want to eliminate all kinds of biodegradable and organic waste from going into the landfill, and that's why they have employed this particular model as a decentralized waste management strategy. The last portion of my PPT would be biomining and bioremediation. And as you would have guessed, I have again considered the example of Madhya Pradesh, a very famous city, Indore, which is consecutively winning the best and the cleanest city award from the government of India. That is Deoguradia, that is located in Indore, right? Where it is a 100-acre dump site which has been saddled by heaps of garbage for decades. Urban local bodies in Indore took up a project to clear the legacy waste. Now, what is a legacy waste? A legacy waste is something which existed in the city before a certain municipal corporation took over, right? It has been persisting in that particular location for years, sometimes for decades, and there is no way to actually effectively manage. Sometimes the waste is even older than the solid waste management rules. The first solid waste management rules came about in 1999. So if there is no guideline that exists for the management of their waste, you can't expect no waste to exist in that particular landfill. So legacy waste dumps existed in Devguradia near Indore, and they took up a project to clean up the legacy waste and to reclaim the 100 acre of land worth rupees 300 crore. So imagine if you are able to clear up this wasteland and if you are able to utilize it for some useful applications, then you are able to sell that land off for a price of 300 crore rupees. This is what it looked like before 2014. And within a space of 4 years, they were able to transform the Devguradia dumping site. Foul odor has disappeared completely. Considerable decline in diseases from trenching ground, right? Because again, if the biodegradable mass is eliminated, if there is no organic content, then the chances of microorganisms, pests, rodents, insecticides, all the disease causing vectors that can exist in a dump yard gets eliminated if you are able to remove the organic part of the waste. All 100 acres of land has been reclaimed. Bioremediation transformed the processing and disposal site into a beautiful green belt. Now, I would like to spend a couple of minutes on bioremediation. So, a lot of enzymatic reactions happen in the natural world for the digestion of biodegradable waste into simpler organic compounds. For example, if we eat sucrose, which is a kind of complex hydrocarbon, then it interacts with our saliva and our gut, our stomach lining. Amylase is the enzyme which converts that sucrose into glucose and fructose, which are simpler sugars. So such metabolic reactions are taking place in the natural world as well. So when you employ microorganisms, when you employ enzymes or solutions of enzymes to such landfill sites for the remediation of organic waste, then that particular process is called the bioremediation. So bioremediation was something that was carried out at Devguradia, which transformed the processing and disposal site into a beautiful green belt. Elimination of dump fires. Now, organic waste with high calorific value in summer seasons, especially, they catch a lot of fire. I got my education from Ahmedabad, and there is a famous landfill site which is called as Pirana. Now, Pirana, if you see from far away, at any point of time, you will see that one portion of the landfill is always under fire. And that is not because somebody is going and putting a matchstick over there, but it's because there is so much of calorific value in that waste. There is so much of organic content that just the right amount of temperature ignites fire, and then a lot of toxic gases are emitted from that particular landfill. So they have eliminated the dump fires and the leachate generation. They have reduced the GHG emissions, soil pollution, and groundwater contamination, and they have increased the real estate value. Now, any real estate which you have purchased near a landfill site will have inherently low value because nobody wants to buy a land in a locality which has a waste dumping site. But now that you have remediated that waste dumping site, then suddenly the prices of the real estate in that locality goes up. So the local community which was settling in and around Devguradia, now they are able to get a reasonable price for their real estate because the entire legacy waste has been cleared up. Okay, so this has increased the value of your locality. They have planted around 60,000 saplings with their geotagging, making it a popular destination within the city. So, from imagine taking a place from being a dump site to a popular destination where people go for recreation. So, that is a major achievement that the city has been able to achieve. The long term impacts of the biomining and the bioremediation project, it is a unique project. They have dealt with a huge quantity of legacy waste, and it can be replicated in other cities. Presently, more than 20 urban local bodies, including Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, have started their own biomining and bioremediation projects, learning from the success story of Indore. And based on the quantity of legacy waste dumped in the city, the scalability of the project is possible to complete the project in the short span of time. So, as I told you, the economics of any technology works out when there is enough for that technology to go on. So there should be enough quantity of waste generated for this project to be scalable. And I think all the major cities in India now are generating enough quantity of waste so that you can implement the biomining project and you can extract the profit out of that particular activity. So at the end of the presentation, I think this is a eye opener for all of us that if you are dumping a lot of garbage on the planet today, then tomorrow the planet might dump you in the dustbin as well. And I think I'll leave you with that thought. If anyone has any questions, now you might unmute yourself and ask. And you might even write an email to me. My email ID has been mentioned in the presentation at the bottom, where you can reach out and write an email to me. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to take.
Say, and it was like सूचना का भंडार भंडार of information. इतनी सारी information you have provided in just 1.5 hour session. So it was very engaging session. मतलब पता ही नहीं चला कि how the 1.5 hour is passed.
Yeah.
और
Hello. Hello.
Charu madam, you are not audible.
Nay. Uh, if some other person want to ask, please go ahead. I will ask later.
हेलो, मैं संध्या एकबोटे बात करना चाह रही हूँ।
हाँ बोलिए।
हाँ, एक तो मैं ऑर्गेनाइजर्स को कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट करना चाहती हूँ, सच ए बर्निंग टॉपिक विथ so many experts, very good experts. We have got lot of knowledge with this. तो थोड़ा सा जैसे आपने कहा था कि सेग्रीगेशन एज सोर्स अगर हो पाता है तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा, जबकि हम में देखते हैं कि हम घर में अलग अलग करते हैं, नगर निगम वाले साथ ले जाते हैं। तो क्या ऐसे हो सकता है कि जो है प्लास्टिक वेस्ट के लिए, ड्राई वेस्ट के लिए, पेपर बोर्ड, सैनिटरी वेस्ट के लिए सप्ताह में 1-2 दिन ऐसे फिक्स किए जाए, so that it can be segregated and taken away properly. और डेली जो है बायोडिग्रेडेबल वेस्ट तो डेली ही जाएगा, और सप्ताह में ये चीज दिन फिक्स किए जा सकते हैं। सिमिलरली ग्लास डिस्पोजल जो है, ग्लास वेस्ट, दैट इज वेरी डेंजरस इन आवर केस कि हम सब इसमें मिक्स कर देते हैं। तो हो सकता है कि ग्लास वेस्ट के लिए जगह जगह बीन्स रखे जाए, जैसे बॉटल डिस्पोजल के लिए रखते हैं, वैसे ग्लास डिस्पोजल के लिए रखे जाए तो रिसाइकलिंग और कलेक्शन आसान हो जाएगा। सिमिलरली फॉर बैटरीज और इन सब के वेस्ट डिस्पोजल के लिए थोड़ा इनिशिएटिव दिया जा सकता है। वाटर बॉटल, बैटरीज इनके लिए जैसे दिए जाते हैं कि आपने उसमें डाली वाटर बॉटल तो यू गेट 5% डिस्काउंट ऑन योर डेली परचेस। तो ये मॉल्स वगैरह हैं, ऐसी जगह ये बैटरीज और बॉटल्स इसका डिस्पोजल दिया जाए और उनको 5% का भी इनिशिएटिव दिया जाए तो उनका भी खपत होगा और लोग याद से डिस्पोजल के लिए ले जाएंगे।
यस।
बेंगलोर वगैरह में भी जो है कि ये कम्युनिटी लेवल पे जो है, वहाँ कम्युनिटी में कचरा जो है बाहर जाता नहीं है, जो है वहीं पे उनका फर्टिलाइजर का वगैरह प्लांट बना है और ड्राई वेस्ट और ये प्रॉपरली कलेक्ट किए जाते हैं। तो उसमें भी जो है कैंपस भी सुंदर रहता है, पानी भी रिसाइकल करके यूज करते हैं, तो नथिंग इज गोइंग वेस्ट। तो ये कम्युनिटी लेवल पे अगर कर देते हैं तो बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा। सिमिलरली मल्टी स्टोरेज जहाँ डेवलपमेंट है, प्लॉटेड डेवलपमेंट, हाउस होल्ड कलेक्शन इज ठीक है, लेकिन जहाँ मल्टी स्टोरेज बिल्डिंग्स है वो बिल्डिंग के नीचे जो है अलग अलग बिन्स लगे रहेंगे, वो भी लॉक एंड की में रहेंगे, सो दैट इट इज नॉट, इट इज ऑलवेज क्लीन। और जो है नगर निगम वाला आके वही बिन लेके चला जाएगा, तो उसमें भी जो है एफर्ट्स काफी कम हो सकते हैं और मेंटेनेंस अच्छा हो सकता है। दिस सिस्टम्स आर फॉलोड इन अदर कंट्रीज, तो छोटी छोटी बातें हम लोग भी इम्प्रूवमेंट कर सकते हैं।
हाँ, और वो एजुकेशन और बिहेवियर चेंज के साथ ही आएगा। मतलब अभी हमारी जो पॉपुलेशन है वो, उसमें स्पेशली जो स्मॉलर टाउन्स की पॉपुलेशन है उनमें अभी वो मैच्योरिटी नहीं है कि वो अपनी कॉर्पोरेशन से क्या एक्सपेक्ट करे। उन्हें ये नहीं पता कि वेस्ट की वैल्यू क्या है, तो उनको ऐसा लगता है हमने अपना टैक्स भर दिया, हमने अपना डस्टबिन घर के बाहर रख दिया तो बस आके ले जाओ। तो वो माइंडसेट से बाहर आने में इट विल टेक अनदर जनरेशन, 10-15 years, बट हाँ, वी आर टेकिंग स्टेप्स इन द राइट डायरेक्शन, वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग द राइट इंसेंटिव्स, सो आई सी सम होप कि soon the situation will improve.
Surely, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, just one question is from me. You have talked about Watson Club in one of your slides. So how it works?
As in?
Schools and colleges. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just share a link with you on the chat box. So the basic idea is that school kids and college students, they are supposed to get into community service and they get course credits for that. Okay. So if you know the college way of giving you a degree, then there are certain compulsory subjects, there are elective subjects. So if you want some extra credits, then you are supposed to be doing some community engagement. It serves two purposes. One, it is able to manage the waste. Second, it is generating awareness at the student level that you know how the benefit of managing your waste properly and collecting it properly are able to offset it. So that's the whole idea behind that club. uh, I'll just try to find the link from where I have I'll just paste it if
Okay.
you have anything else to ask.
Okay, I thought some within the school or college campus they are working on this kind of.
Yeah, within the school and college campuses, actually, we do not have sufficient quantum of waste
Yeah.
to collect. So we engage students. So in Ahmedabad also, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, Microsoft along with GIZ, both of them implemented a strategy which is called as Create to Inspire, where they wanted to create student level, volunteer level participation to collect electronic waste. As ma'am was mentioning,
Mm-hmm.
in her narrative that there should be incentives for collection of batteries. So I was a part of that program when I was a student, and what they were targeting to do is use students as a communication medium to the bulk generators of electronic waste and enable them to actually dispose of their waste in an environmentally sustainable way. I'll give you an example. So uh, all the wires that we use inside our home has copper inside it, and copper is a very valuable metal. Current rates are around 600 per kg. Rupees 600 per kg is the cost of pure copper. So it is a very expensive, very valuable metal. So it has a PVC coating on the outside. So whenever you dispose of the wires, it is classified as an electric and electronic waste. Now, what do you do with that waste? So इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर अगेन इज बर्निंग ऑफ, वो उसके ऊपर केरोसिन डाल के और उसको जला देते हैं, तो जो पीवीसी विल बर्न ऑफ और जो भी बचेगा दैट इज योर कॉपर. नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ द बर्निंग ऑफ पीवीसी देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ टॉक्सिक क्लोरिनेटेड एंड फ्लोरिनेटेड गैसेस दैट कम आउट, और वो जो भी जिसके भी सांस में जाएगा उसको कैंसर होगा, लॉन्ग टर्म ब्रोंकाइटिस, रेस्पिरेटरी डिसऑर्डर्स, डायोक्सिन्स, फ्यूरान्स जैसे हार्मफुल गैसेस जनरेट होते हैं. सो इफ यू आर एबल टू क्रिएट दैट अवेयरनेस वेयर दैट इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेस्ट इज बीन गिवन ऑफ टू एन ऑफिशियल रिसाइकलर, उसके पास एक श्रेडिंग मशीन होता है, वो श्रेडिंग मशीन में वायर डालते ही पीवीसी ऊपर से अलग हो जाएगा और कॉपर एक्सट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा उसमें से. देयर इज नो बर्निंग इन्वॉल्व, देयर इज नो डिस्ट्रक्टिव process, there is no harmful acid or fire or any other process involved. So that's where they wanted a bunch of students to actually go and inspire the local waste generators to actually deposit their electronic waste to the proper organized sector recyclers and not the informal sector.
Okay, one more question was there.
Yeah.
Actually, in our locality in Bhopal,
Yeah.
there is a provision of doorstep collection.
Okay.
But most of the time, when the vehicle comes for collecting the waste, our home is locked. So it is,
Okay.
I think many of households have this kind of problem, how to dispose of the waste, because now the bins are not there in place.
Yeah.
No, so we have to keep it in our home itself. So what are the
Yeah.
arrangement in other cities? Is there any provision for this kind of problems?
So I'll tell you my personal experience with the city of Rajkot. The corporation itself would provide you 3 different dustbins, colored like green, black, and blue, right? And you are supposed to keep your waste. And if you are going out, then you are supposed to put all those 3 buckets outside your home before you leave the home. So that is one very common solution that has been applied. Nobody actually, the perception in India is that nobody wants to store their waste for more than a day, and understandably so, because the biodegradable waste starts smelling if you like store it beyond a certain hours. So the only solution is that if everyone in the household is working or everyone is not available during a particular time of the day, then the only solution is that you put it in a community bin if it is nearby, and if it is not available, then you have to trust your waste by putting all your dustbins outside your home before you leave, so that the waste picker would come on time. So regularity plays a big factor. If the city has a regular waste collection system where you know for certain that at between 10 to 10:30 a.m. in the morning there would be a waste picker who would come and who would be collecting this waste, then it makes the whole process more easier. So there is a factor of reliability that comes into the picture. If your waste management is going to happen every day, if the waste picker itself is irregular, then you won't be able to
Yes.
trust your waste outside your home.
Even one more problem is there. The stray animals like dogs always spoil all these bins
Yeah.
if we put outside our house,
Yes.
and they litter. All litter goes on these streets or in front of our door. So
Yeah.
it is again a problem if
Yeah.
we put outside our home.
Yeah, and it's especially a problem in non-gated societies, because in gated societies you
Yeah.
would have a security guard who would not allow stray dogs to, enter the society. But if you are living in a standalone apartment, it becomes very difficult. Uh, you should also try looking, if you have a personal hobby of gardening, you should also try looking into OWC composters. They are very cheap, around 2,000 2,500 rupees, and you can simply dump your organic waste into that. You don't have to do anything. It's a drum shaped device which is tilted 90 degrees. So you have to rotate the drum every 5 days, every 10 days. You have to just rotate it by a certain degrees, so the mixing happens inside it, and then whatever compost is generated, that is odor free, and you can use it in your own plants, you can use it in your own gardens for a period of time. That is one thing that I advocate everyone to do. I know it's an added effort, but then the results are also good.
Yeah. Yesterday we have a session also on this biocomposting.
Yeah.
We also got some knowledge on it. One more related question to it is like earlier the dogs, especially the dogs, street dogs, were dependent on these garbage and waste which was thrown out on nearby streets or dustbins. But
Yeah.
it is observed that now they are not getting proper food. So
Yeah.
it is observed that their behavior is changed. So what kind of initiatives for these stray animals is there for to uh, they would not suffer from such kind of issues, and what is there for these
Yeah.
animals also?
Yeah, so this is a very complicated question, but I'd like to simply answer it. So, first, my experience with stray animals and garbage is different, because sometimes, people who do not segregate it properly, their garbage, you would see that there are some small wrappers, plastic polythene bags that go along with the
Yes,
garbage. And cows, not only dogs, but cows also end up eating that garbage without discriminating between what is plastic and what is eatable, what is edible. So that has a negative side to it as well. So even though the overall food availability for stray animals has reduced, I would still say, it's better to, provide them directly from the waste. And so what is practiced at my home is that we, whatever is left over, we make sure that first the stray animals get it, and then only whatever is left we throw it off as garbage, right? But it's again unsafe to throw garbage, unsolicited garbage, into the community bin. And if the dogs or any stray animal dips their mouth into it, chances are that they might ingest something which is not edible, which might even be harmful, and that is something which is even detrimental to their health in the long term. So this is a serious problem, and I'm glad that somebody is thinking about animal welfare as well in the whole scheme of things. But it has both the sides to it. I mean, even though we were supplementing their food
so
through.
there could be some kind of provision like these three bins,
Yeah.
blue, green, and that. So separate bin can also be placed anywhere in a locality or
Yeah.
something for
Yeah.
stray animals where sorted waste can be dumped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. In this regard, should I highlight few things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, in this regard, millions of dogs and monkeys, as all educated people, if we'll try to little bit aware with our community, and if we can create animal food park, this could be a good initiative towards nature itself as well as bejuan janwar. So this kind of things we have done in our
Yeah.
own community, but because we have lot of land in Himachal Pradesh, but it might be problematic for where land availability is not there. So this kind of at least practice we can formulate in society so that we can understand the religious point of view also as well as
Yeah.
solid waste point of view also. So this is just my suggestion. If
Okay.
you can do in your institutional level, in your
Yeah.
community, as well as in your society also,
Yeah.
with the consent of all people, because it is a very dangerous initiations also, because some people do not like dog and animals,
Yeah.
and if you will feed something, then obviously they try to fight with you also. So you have to first make such an environment with the concern with the all people. So as a humanity, we can do it with
Yeah.
that practice. Okay,
Yeah.
carry on. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, what are your views about food waste disposal? Many companies like Incinerator, Frankie, which we put under the sink, and the food waste is churned and it goes into our drain. What are your views about that? Should we use it or not?
Yeah, so there is a technology which is called as kitchen sink grinders, which is very common in the West. I mean, in the developed economies. So what they do is they put their garbage into the kitchen sink, and then there is a grinder which is inbuilt into the sink. So once you switch it on, it finally grinds all the garbage into very small residue, and it then is drained off, right? So why this is not implementable in India? First is most of the households in India have a basic lack of appliances. So India is not a country which has a lot of kitchen appliances. You won't see a microwave in every home. You won't see an electric shaver in every home, right? So first, we are not an appliance heavy country for disposal of food waste in such a way. Second, all this waste which is dumped into the drains eventually goes to the sewage treatment plant of the city. That is the STP. So currently in all the cities, the STPs are only designed for human waste. That is the excretions that human beings have, and the bathing wastes or the sanitary waste that we are generating in the liquid form. Our current treatment facilities are designed for that and not for any organic content that is coming out of your garbage, right? So it makes sense only when there is a lot of energy security in India. Electric supplies are irregular. People do not have access to appliances. Most of the households, if you go and ask, would you buy a kitchen sink grinder? They would say no, because of affordability issues, because of all kinds of issues, right? Most of the households even might not have a dedicated sink for garbage disposal, because they would have a common washing area where they wash their clothes, where they wash their utensils, depending on the time of the day. So I think India is not a country which has that culture to dispose of their food waste or their garbage in such a way. So it's a good suggestion, but I don't think we as a country are ready to embrace that initiative yet. So our best bet is to rely on the private waste collectors as well as the urban local body to come and collect it in the solid form, rather than grinding it and disposing of with the drainage.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sudhir Dubey sir has raised the question. Nagar Nigam employees burn the garbage. It should be stopped, and disciplined action should be implemented. Is there any law to stop them from burning the garbage?
Yes, there is a law as per the Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. Open burning of garbage is prohibited, and there are fines that are associated with the burning of garbage. The only problem with implementing that law is that how can you track open burning of garbage, because there are so many households in a city as vastly populated as India. So if someone is simply burning garbage or any kind of waste in their backyard, even though it is prohibited by law, there is simply no way to track that, where these wastes are being burnt. And we have so the sad state of affairs is that we have learned to be united as a community for all the wrong things. So even though something wrong is going on in your neighborhood, you won't report it to the authorities just to maintain the sanctity of your neighborhood. So you won't report it. So it is very difficult to track small scale fires which are used for burning of garbage. But if some education attempt is made, because if the users are made aware that because of burning of such plastics and such waste that come out of your home, you might even end up inhaling a lot of poisonous or toxic gases, which might have a long-term deleterious effect on your health. Then I think that's the right approach. If you just stop people from burning their waste because they see waste as a problem and they see like it's our problem and the only way we know to deal with it is by burning it, then they're going to continue that practice of burning the garbage. But if they are made aware about what are the harmful health effects of doing that, and how they can manage the same waste in a better manner or in a profitable manner, in fact, then some behavioral change might happen. But yeah, there is a law to stop the burning of garbage, but it is very difficult to implement it at a household level, because in a country as populous as India, you can't even track कहाँ पे बर्निंग हो रहा है, कहाँ पे नहीं हो रहा है.
So anybody else want to ask any question? Okay, then thank you, Jason. You have given a very wonderful presentation, and I think uh, we all have got the information what we have not there in earlier. So it was you are very I would say ki, you are very kind enough that you have accepted the invitation in a very short time, and you have
No problem.
presented all the information in 1.5 hours, and it was a very energetic session also, and thanks a lot for your support and cooperation also.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
I
very
will be
much.
happy to
Yeah,
respond to any queries. If you can email me,
yeah.
you can always reach out to me. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
It is very informative and very interesting presentation, and so much learning from it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next session will start at 12:15. I think just 5 minutes remain, and the session will be the lecture will be delivered by architect Shikha Patidar ma'am itself. So I think be there. Just it is just 5 minutes to restart it. Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, madam. My lecture is not there today.
Sorry, sorry. Yeah, yeah. It was on 12th. Yeah. So the lecture will be on hydroponics and aquaponics just after this one, and it will be delivered by Sri Vinay Khare sir. Yeah, it was a little.
Okay, thank.
I was at this the schedule. I have this schedule, but I